And because the Commission on the Status of Person with Disabilities was generated in House of Representatives legislation, I took on the responsibility of convening this meeting. I think everyone, I thank each and every one of you who is present. I congratulate you for taking on the responsibilities that you have been charged with for this commission. I am going to try and conduct this meeting at a brick pace. I hope you will come on the ride with us. Today is a lot of housework that we have to take care of in order to get the commission launched. I anticipate in every other meeting there will be much more discussion, much more interchange for people. As we begin, I want to say that the sense of why this timing was so very important, why I thank each and every one of you for being here on a July morning, is that if not for now, we would wait till September. We have a meeting scheduled, a report due in October. I think that with the funding we have received effective as of today, that it is important that we launch our work to show our strong commitment. The issues and concerns of people with disabilities, as we all know, regardless of the disability, have either been illuminated or exacerbated during the COVID-19 time, and the urgency to begin is today. A few housekeeping issues. First and foremost, I want to extend my sincere appreciation to the Mass Developmental Disability Council, who is helping us with all of the work we have done to make this commission hearing accessible to all commissioners and to the public who is welcome to this meeting. Also, I want to thank the DPPC for their advice and counsel as we prepared. And I would like to introduce to you my staff, who is Colin Feeder, my Chief of Staff, as well as Phil Lynch and Isabel Lane, who are on this call to assist us. The meeting is being conducted, as you know, virtually on Zoom. It's also being live streamed on YouTube, where a recording will be posted at the conclusion of the meeting. We have an American Sign Language interpreters too with us present on the meeting and have pinned their videos to the meeting so that they are always visible. Additionally, we have cart services captions enabled and have shared cart services linked with attendees and viewers in advance of the meeting. The cart link is also available in the description of the YouTube video and will be posted in the Zoom chat by Colin Fedor now. CAT services, as many of us know, means communication access real-time translation. CAT services provide instantaneous translation of what is being said into the visual print display so that it can be read instead of heard. CAT services is one means of communication access for deaf or hard of hearing individuals who read English fluently. Additionally, all documents and presentations that appear on screen have been shared ahead of time and are linked to in the description of the YouTube video to assist with those who may need screen readers. If you have any questions over the course of the meeting, please contact Colin Fedor at Colin, COLLIN .Fedor, FEDOR, at mahouse.gov. And are there any questions presently from commissioners as it relates to accessibility? I hope you all join me with a thumbs up for the considerable work that it has taken to make sure that this meeting is accessible. We are now going to begin with a call of the roll. At this time, I would like each and every commissioner to unmute themselves. Colin will perform the roll call in alphabetical order.
Thank you, Representative Garlick. So as part of this roll call, I will do my best to pronounce names, and if you have a correction, please let me know so I can present or pronounce them best. So we'll start with Giazi Burks Abbott.
That's me, Jossie Burks Abbott.
Jossie, thank you, Jossie. Charlie Carr.
Here.
Representative Gerard Cassidy.
Here.
Representative Denise Garlick.
Here.
Nancy Gar Colsey.
Here.
Representative Kay Khan.
Here.
Andrew Lavralt.
Here.
Ann Lynch,
Here.
Felix Martinez. No Felix? Okay. Oswald Mondehar,
Here.
Representative Matthew Muratori.
Here.
Bridget Murphy. Bridget. Okay. Senator Patrick O'Connor.
Here.
Thank you. Angela Ortiz.
Here.
Kathy Petkauskas.
Here.
Nancy Rumble-Trzynski.
Here.
Dan Shannon.
Here.
Paul Spooner.
Here.
Carrie Thompson.
Here.
Christopher White.
Here.
And Liz Zelnick.
Here.
Great, thank you. So we have two commissioners that are currently not present. And we'll make note of that, Representative. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and we will look for them if they join us in a few moments. At this time, I'd like to introduce to all of you Jordan Maynard, who's the Chief Secretary and Director of Boards and Commissioners in the Governor's Office, and he will swear in the commissioners now.
Thank you, Representative, and thank you to the legislature and to a lot of familiar faces I see on here today. It's wonderful to see you, and for everyone that I haven't met, I look forward to speaking with you in the future. Thank you on behalf of the Governor's Office for serving, and this is really simple. If you will just repeat after me and raise your right hand. I state your name.
I
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly
Swear.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I will bear
to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
to the
the
Commonwealth,
Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
and I will support the Constitution thereof.
and I will
and I will support the Constitution thereof.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I state your name.
I, Nancy Rumble-Trzynski,
Do solemnly swear and affirm
do
solemnly swear and affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially
that
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent on me
all the duties incumbent upon me
as a member of the Commission on the Status of Persons with Disabilities,
as
as a member of the Commissions on the Status of Persons with Disabilities,
according to the best of my abilities and understanding,
according to the best of my abilities and understanding,
agreeably to the rules and regulations of the Constitution
agreeably
to the rules and
rules and regulations of the Constitution
and the laws of this Commonwealth.
and
and the laws of this Commonwealth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I state your name.
I, Nancy Rumble-Trzynski,
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly
swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I
that
will
I will support
the Constitution of the United
the United States.
Congratulations to you all, and thank you for your service on this very important matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jordan.
Representative, if that will be all, I think me and my fellow commissioner to qualify will hop off the meeting, but we're happy to provide any support, Colin, that you need going forward.
Thank you very much, Jordan.
Thank you.
Thank you. And in continuing now, the next duty that you saw on our agenda is that we have to deal with the conflict of interest overview. So according to our statute, the commissioners, of which you are now the official commissioners, are subject to the provisions of Chapter 268A as they apply to special state employees. And as such, I would like to welcome David Giannotti, Public Education and Communications Division Chief of the State Ethics Commission, to provide a brief presentation on the state conflict of interest law. David, welcome.
Thank you, Representative, and thank you, Commissioners. Welcome. And I will be presenting some information on the state's conflict of interest law. For those of you who are already public employees, you understand conflict of interest rules. You are required to complete regular education on the conflict of interest law. And what the law basically requires is that as public employees, as state employees, you are required to serve the public interest. And that generally means that you are required to support the mission of the commission on whose board you now serve. Conflicts of interest are those situations where one's private interest might also be affected when one is performing public duties. The conflict of interest law imposes restrictions. And so for those of you who are public employees and are also serving as commissioners, this is review. My presentation this morning is really geared towards those of you who are now state employees by virtue of your appointment to this commission. As the representative explained, you are required to comply with the provisions of the conflict of interest law, but as special state employees as opposed to regular state employees. And while we are, you're all special, what that means is there is flexibility under the conflict of interest law for special state employees that is not available for full-time state employees. So Colin had provided a handout, and Colin, I'm not able to advance it. Is there some way I can get a screen share so I can use it, or just to scroll through it? But in any event, my contact information appears on that first page. And
so I have it, sorry to interrupt, David, I have it presently visible. Are you able to see it on the screen?
I can see it on the screen, but I'm not able to scroll through it. It says that screen share has been disabled. So I was just wondering if there was some way I could screen share it.
Okay. I will stop sharing mine and see if I can let you do it really fast.
Now I've got it one available. So thank you very much for that. Sorry for that brief interruption. So you were provided with a handout from Colin, and you can read that at your leisure. It just basically outlines the requirements under the conflict of interest law. There is really two parts to it, an explanation of the law, and then also an explanation for members of state boards and commissions. It further explains what it means to be a state employee. And generally, if in your private capacity, your entity, organization, or what have you does business with state agencies, you need to understand that the conflict of interest law can impose some restrictions. The State Ethics Commission is available to you and to all public employees as a resource. The conflict of interest law can get a little complicated in sections, but fortunately you don't have to become an expert on the law. That's our job. What we want you to understand is that we are available. We receive calls from public employees, about 6,000 calls in a year. So if a question ever comes up about whether the conflict of interest law might apply to some of your activities as a member of the commission or in connection with your private activities, if it involves the commission, please call the Ethics Commission. We have attorneys on staff who would be very pleased to help you understand what the compliance rules are. The Ethics Commission, we are a state agency, and our mission is to administer and enforce the provisions of the conflict of interest law, as well as a second statute, the financial disclosure law, that does not apply for the purposes of our discussion today. The most important service we provide at the Ethics Commission for your purposes and for everyone's purposes is advice. If anyone has a question about whether their proposed activities as a commission member or in their private business activities will implicate the conflict law, please call our office. We are required to observe strict confidentiality over our review of any matters. That includes requests for advice. So you can call our office. We have a fillable PDF form on our website. You can send an email. but the advice is confidential. Just understand we do not give third-party advice. Well, because we're required to keep all matters confidential, we can't talk about 99.999% of the work we do at the Ethics Commission, and that serves your purpose, because if you do have an issue and you do need to understand whether there are compliance rules under the conflict law, you don't necessarily want the whole world to know your business, and we'll keep that information confidential. So we don't give out third-party advice. We'll talk to you about how the law applies to you. We can't discuss with you how it might apply to someone else. Also, when you're talking about conflicts of interest, they may never happen to you in connection with your service on the commission, but they happen every day in government, and they're not to be feared. They're to be managed, and you manage conflicts by getting out in front on those situations. And it starts out by having a basic understanding of conflicts of interest so that you know when the red flag should go up. And
I didn't realize you were coming today.
it goes up, then call the Ethics Commission to make sure you hear from us, the experts, on whether there are compliance rules. Also, we have a website where you can review information if you want to concerning the conflict of interest law. So I'm now going to talk about the specific conflict of interest restrictions that you need to be aware of, just from a high level. The first part, gift restrictions. Understand that public employees are required to serve the public interest, and gift giving in the public sector can undermine confidence in government that the conflict law is designed to preserve. And therefore, the conflict law restricts whether public employees can accept gifts from people. The main restriction would be in connection with gifts that are given to you in connection with your public position. The law does not restrict you from accepting gifts from people where there's no connection to your public position. But in connection with your position as a commission member, you cannot accept or solicit bribes. You cannot accept gifts or any item of value that are worth $50 or more and that are given to you either because of who you are as a commission member, it implicates your public position, or if given for or because of official acts. In other words, if you have business dealings as a commission member and someone wants to provide you with a gift, the law establishes a $50 threshold. It really tries to hit a moving target that's impossible to hit about at what point could a public employee be improperly influenced in connection with the receipt of the gift? In other words, rather than serve the public interest, would they instead decide a matter differently because they accepted a gift from someone? And so in order to maintain confidence in government so that the public can have confidence in the work of public employees, those gifts are restricted. Even for gifts that are worth less than $50, we can, as public employees, accept gifts worth less than $50, but it may trigger a disclosure requirement. The conflict of interest law is a statute that requires transparency in certain situations where conflicts present. Conflicts basically break down into two different types: financial interest conflicts and everything else. And as to financial interest conflicts, the compliance rules, we have to stay out of matters as commission members if our own financial interests are going to be affected, or those of businesses that we are employed by or that we own or operate. But for all other types of non-financial interest conflicts, the law requires transparency. It requires public employees to put the cards on the table. It says that whenever you enter into any situation as a public employee and the public could become concerned about whether you could be unduly influenced, a disclosure would be required. And in connection with gifts worth less than $50, that can trigger that requirement. The public looking at a situation where a public employee has accepted a gift from someone where they're also poised to take official actions as a public employee affecting the gift giver, there'll be a concern about whether the public employee is going to serve the public interest or instead make decisions more favorable to somebody who provided them with a gift. So those are the basic gift restriction rules. Bribes, we understand that. Otherwise, gifts worth $50 or more where our public position is implicated are restricted. And then gifts worth less than $50 may require, although they can be accepted, may require a disclosure requirement. Another provision in the conflict law deals with what we call nepotism issues, nepotism and self-dealing. And it states that you as a commission member, you may not perform your duties if what you will do will affect certain financial interests, yours, certain family members, your closest in what we call immediate family members, and then any business entity, if you own or operate a business, or if you have private employment. And as a commission member, you would be called upon to have dealings with those entities that might affect their financial interest. The conflict law disqualifies you from performing your duties. You must stay out of matters if certain financial interests are affected. There are also code of conduct rules under the conflict law. And I talked about one in connection with gifts worth less than $50, the disclosure requirement. In any situation where you are poised to perform your duties and you are acquainted with any of the participants, assuming that financial interests are not going to be affected, but in any instance where you're required to serve the public interest, but what you will do might affect some component of your private or your business life, be it entities or people, that would trigger the disclosure requirement as well. Because the public, looking at how the public's business is being conducted, would become concerned about whether you are serving the public interest or you are instead making decisions more favorable to some private interest you have in connection with matters you're handling as a public employee. So in any instance where a matter comes before the commission and you know any of the players, that would trigger the compliance rule under the conflict law that would require you to file a disclosure. Now, where would you file the disclosure? In the statute, it uses the term appointing authority. Whoever appointed you to the commission is your appointing authority. And if you encounter a conflict of interest and the statute allows you to continue to perform your duties despite the conflict, you would have to file a disclosure with your appointing authority of that circumstance, because the law requires us to file disclosures to create transparency, but by filing the disclosure with our appointing authority, for my purposes, say I would have filed one with the Ethics Commission, it then puts the agency on notice about my potential conflict, your potential conflict, and the agency may want to step in and make decisions about whether our continued participation, although allowed under the law, but should be allowed, or maybe some adjustments should be made. Also, under the Code of Conduct section, you cannot use your position to extend unwarranted privileges to someone. There are going to be certain rules. All work that public employees perform are informed or guided by rules, statutes, regulations, you name it. We serve the public, we serve the public interest, and to the extent we can extend any benefits or convey any benefits, it must be done on an open and fair basis and always following all of the rules. In any instance where a public employee deviates from the normal rules that guide what they're supposed to do, and as a result of that deviation, someone they're connected to privately benefits themselves, their friends, their family, that would implicate the Code of Conduct section. That would constitute what we call an improper use of public position. In addition, the conflict of interest law would prohibit public employees from improperly disseminating confidential information to further a personal purpose. You're now state employees, and there are open meeting law requirements that you'll learn more about in a short period of time. But there is some information, data that is confidential, like everything the Ethics Commission does is confidential by statute. You may receive or review confidential information, and if you do, you may not improperly disseminate that information to anyone in an effort to further a personal purpose. Also, the conflict of interest law imposes a duty of loyalty on all public employees. And what that means is, because you are now a special state employee as a commission member, your ability to represent business interests or third-party interests before state agencies is restricted. Now, for regular state employees, that applies statewide. For special state employees, it only applies to matters before the commission. You cannot represent your business interest or any type of third-party interest before your own commission. You are allowed to represent yourself. We don't lose any rights because we become state employees. The conflict law is concerned about you using your position, your expertise, your connection, influences, any of that to benefit third-party interest. And so it imposes a duty of loyalty on you to the state, to the commission. In addition to not being able to represent third-party interest, we also cannot be paid privately. We can't go to work for someone and be paid by them to work on any matter that might also involve the commission. Also, there are restrictions on whether state employees can acquire a financial interest in a state contract. And that generally means, can you take on a second paid state job? Can you take on a vendor contract with a state agency? And the answer is yes, as long as it doesn't involve the commission. As special state employees, you have more flexibility than the full-time state employees have. They have a restriction. They cannot take on second paid state jobs or require a financial interest in a vendor contract unless certain circumstances apply. But for commission members, being special state employees, you can take on additional paid positions or work on vendor contracts with other state agencies as long as the commission is not involved. And then also, even when you leave the commission, the conflict of interest law contains what we call revolving door restrictions. And the revolving door are situations where state employees leave their state position today. Tomorrow they go through the revolving door, only they're now representing some business or third-party interest before the agency they just left. For your purposes, if you were to leave, if your term ended on the commission, could you then represent a client before the commission? And the answer to that exciting question is it depends on the circumstances. You can't play both sides of the street, which means that if you work on a matter as a commission member and you then leave the commission service, you can't then represent third-party interest before the commission in connection with those matters that you worked on. There's a one-year cooling off period that applies to matters that while you did not work on them, they were nonetheless under your official responsibility as a commission member. In other words, the matter was pending, but you abstained or you were absent from the meeting. It's still a matter that's under your official responsibility. So the conflict law imposes either what we call a permanent restriction or a one-year cooling off period. Okay, that basically concludes my presentation. There is also an attachment to the handout that Colin provided. It's an explanation of the conflict of interest law that applies to appointed members of state boards and commissions. Basically, if in your private business activities, you might do business with state agencies, or your private businesses might benefit from any of the work of the commission, you want to be cognizant of conflict of interest law rules, and don't be afraid to call our office in advance, and we'll be very happy to explain what the compliance rules are. I hope you can appreciate that while some of what I've explained is fairly intuitive, other issues are very complicated. And don't always assume the answer is no. I mean, we could take a lot more time to explain regulations and exemptions that allow certain things to occur that are otherwise restricted under the law, but it's very complicated. For our purposes today, just recognize when the red flag needs to go up. Gift restriction rules, nepotism rules, code of conduct rules, restrictions on duty of loyalty restrictions, restrictions on acquiring a financial interest in another contract with the state agency, and then revolving door restrictions. I know that's a lot to absorb, but you have the handouts Colin provided. You can review those at your leisure. If you have any general questions, my contact information is on page 1. Call me. If you need specific advice, call the Ethics Commission at the number provided and ask to speak to the attorney of the day. And our attorneys can provide you with specific legal advice. Otherwise, I can provide a general explanation of the law. That concludes my presentation. If there are any questions, I will take them now. Otherwise, congratulations on your appointment, and best wishes on the success of the commission going forward.
Do any commissioners have any questions?
Okay. So
Seeing
with that,
none, we thank you, David.
okay, I'm going to sign off on the presentation, and good luck with the rest of your meeting.
Thank you. And as you may all know, the incredible Jennifer Raymond from the Mass Developmental Disability Council, should we see any questions, she would refer them to me as the chair through Colin. But it seems like we're doing well and people are getting the information they need. My fellow commissioners, I can feel the responsibility and the accountability settling on your shoulders as we go through these presentations. We have one more, at which time I would like to have a presentation on the open meeting law overview. And for that, we would like to welcome Carrie Benedin, the Director of the Division of Open Government in the Office of the Attorney General, Maura Healy, to provide a brief overview of the open meeting law. Carrie, good morning, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, and this is great. I provided the PowerPoint and I wasn't sure if you would have it up or if I'd be sharing my screen, but this works very well. So I'm pleased to be here today. Again, my name is Carrie Benedon. I'm the Director of the Attorney General's Division of Open Government, and we have responsibility for enforcing the open meeting law. A big part of what we do as part of our enforcement responsibilities is provide training and outreach to public bodies, to the media, to the public, to make sure that everybody has a full understanding of what the open meeting law requires. Now, what I'm going to do today is just going to be a very abbreviated overview of the open meeting law and its requirements for public bodies, such as this commission. This is by no means a comprehensive open meeting law training. We do offer comprehensive open meeting law training, so I do just want to mention that from the very beginning. We offer open meeting law webinars, which are live broadcast webinars. They're interactive. There's opportunity for questions. We generally do those twice a month, although less frequently over the summer. So on our website, and I'll have information at the end of this presentation for where to find our website and other resources, but on our website, we always keep it updated with upcoming webinars. And for anybody who is interested in more of a comprehensive open meeting law training, I do encourage you to sign up for one of those free webinars. They're usually about 90 minutes long, and so much more comprehensive than what I will do today in 10 minutes or so. Next slide, please. So for starters, the open meeting law requires all members of a public body to sign a certification form. This certification form is supposed to be distributed along with certain open meeting law materials, usually from whoever is the appointing authority or the executive director. So this certification form, as well as our office's open meeting law guidebook, should be distributed to each one of the commissioners. If that hasn't been done yet, then we encourage you to do it as soon as possible. And then each commissioner is required to sign this certification form, which essentially states that you have received the required open meeting law materials, reviewed the statute and the open meeting law regulations, and that you understand the requirements of the law. So if this hasn't already been done, then that would be a piece of homework for after today. Next slide, please. A few basics about the requirements of the open meeting law. The open meeting law has a few key pieces that are intended to provide for transparency of the workings of government, and in this case for your commission. So the key thing, which we will spend a few minutes discussing, is that notice of meetings must be posted, and deliberations can only occur during a meeting for which notice has been posted. So in a minute, I'll discuss what is deliberation so that you know what you can and cannot do outside of a scheduled posted public meeting. Then meetings need to be open to the public unless a proper executive session is convened. I am not today going to talk about the permissible reasons for executive sessions, but we do have a lot of guidance on our website, and that's something that we would cover in the more comprehensive training. Then minutes need to be kept of all meetings, and I will just mention at the end that there isn't a complaint process. If somebody believes that the open meeting law has been violated, then there is a process to file an open meeting law complaint. Anybody can file an open meeting law complaint, a member of the public, a member of the media, even a member of the public body itself who believes there has been a violation that has not been adequately addressed. Next slide. All right, so I just want to briefly touch on the definition of a public body. I think suffice it to say for today that your commission is a public body that is subject to the open meeting law. The relevant piece here is that subcommittees are also public bodies. So if this commission appoints subcommittees, which might include just a subset of commission members or might even include a subset of commission members, as well as outside members of the public who are tapped to join subcommittees, all of those subcommittees also are public bodies, and so they also need to comply with the open meeting law, meaning that they also need to only deliberate during meetings for which notice has been posted and that are open to the public. Next slide, please. So here's where we're going to talk about deliberation, because this is really the key, I would say a key piece of the open meeting law is understanding what needs to occur only during a posted meeting. So for purposes of deliberation, deliberation refers to any communication between or among a quorum of a public body on public business within the public body's jurisdiction. So a quorum is a simple majority, and that is fairly easy to quantify. If a subcommittee is appointed, then a quorum is a simple majority of the subcommittee. And the definition of deliberation is really broad. So it really does refer to almost all communications that are about business within the commission's jurisdiction. So the definition of deliberation is not limited to what some people think of as deliberative types of communications. It's not limited only to opinion communications or decision communications. It really is limited to any communications that are on public business within the commission's jurisdiction. So even just the conveying or sharing of information, unless it falls within a couple of limited exceptions, should not be occurring by email or otherwise outside of a meeting. Again, this is a very broad definition of deliberation, and it really is intended to ensure that not just the decision-making itself, but all of the discussions that might lead to decision-making occurs only during a public meeting. So there are some limited exceptions to the definition of deliberation for generally for administrative types of matters. So emails about scheduling a meeting or setting an agenda are permissible. It's also permissible to distribute or share documents or reports that will be discussed at a meeting, provided that no opinion of a commission member is expressed in any of those communications. So as an example, it's fine for the chair or an administrator to send out an email to all the commission members saying, we're scheduling our next meeting, please send any suggested agenda items. And it's fine for people to respond with their suggested agenda items, but it would not be acceptable to respond and say, I'd like to talk about X, and here's what I think about that topic and why it's important, because that would include the expression of an opinion. So this exception for scheduling meetings, setting an agenda, distributing documents, that is permissible, but with the important caveat that it cannot include the expression of opinion. So again, it's fine, for example, to send a news article that you want to discuss at an upcoming meeting or as an FYI, provided that the news article and the email that conveys that news article doesn't include the expression of opinion. So the message here is that the definition of deliberation is really quite broad, and there should be very limited communication among a quorum outside of a meeting. Now, communication among less than a quorum, as long as the people involved in the communication are not a designated subcommittee, is fine. So for example, if you have 2 or 3 commission members who on their own decide that they're going to talk about something, maybe make a proposal at an upcoming meeting, that is permissible for that small group of people, less than a quorum, who are not a designated subcommittee, to have those communications. So the key piece here is the broad definition of deliberation, and then keeping in mind how many people is a quorum. Next slide. All right, so I got a little bit ahead of myself, but this is just the examples of things that are not deliberation that I just discussed a moment ago. Next slide. All right. So the open meeting law defines meeting as any deliberation by a public body with respect to any matter within the body's jurisdiction. So really, any deliberation is a meeting. It's just a question of whether that deliberation was something that was for which notice was posted. So this can seem a little confusing, but really any time that a quorum of the body deliberates, that is a meeting. The question is, did the meeting occur properly in that it occurred only with 48 hours notice and it was open to the public? So the definition of meeting, because it includes any deliberation, includes any regular meetings, special meetings, retreats, workshops. It really doesn't matter what the particular gathering is called. If what you have is a discussion on public business that involves a quorum, then it is a meeting, and notice needs to be posted. It needs to be open to the public. Again, regardless of whether it's a retreat or a special meeting or anything like that. There is one exception that I'll mention, which is that the open meeting law specifically allows a quorum of a public body to attend a training or event, as long as the commission members don't deliberate during that training or event. So for example, if the full commission or a quorum of the commission wanted to attend a training on a particular topic, whether it's an open meeting law training or anything else, that is permissible as long as they are not discussing their business while they are at that training. Next slide. All right, accessibility is a key piece of the open meeting law. So accessibility, as far as the open meeting law is concerned, means a variety of different things. So significantly, it means that meetings need to be open and accessible to the public. If meetings are being held remotely, as this meeting is, then the public needs to be provided with what is referred to as adequate alternative access to the meeting. So instead of physically attending a meeting in a meeting room, there needs to be adequate alternative access, which can utilize a variety of technologies. Zoom is certainly a very common and acceptable one. It's also acceptable for a meeting, for meeting access to be provided to the public by a live stream. So rather than allowing the public to actually join and log into the Zoom, to stream the Zoom live on YouTube Live or Facebook Live or on a commission's website, something like that is fine and would be considered adequate alternative access as long as the public can clearly follow the proceedings live. Accessibility to a meeting includes reasonable efforts to accommodate crowds. That's less of an issue for remote meetings, more of an issue if you have a meeting location, a physical location. It needs to be large enough to accommodate those who wish to attend. Accessibility certainly includes accessibility for those with disabilities. Meetings that are held in physical locations must be held in ADA compliant locations. And then I do have on this slide contact information for the Attorney General's Civil Rights Division that is available to assist if there are any particular questions about accommodations that need to be made, what is considered a reasonable accommodation for a meeting, both for public body members as well as for members of the public. Next slide. So meeting notices. I mentioned earlier that notice needs to be posted of every meeting. Notice needs to be posted at least 48 hours in advance on the commission's website, or if the commission doesn't have a website yet, whatever website it's using. The commission needs to notify our office of the website that will be used for posting its meeting notices. And we do keep a list on our website of all of the different websites that different public bodies use to post their meeting notices. So I'm not sure that we have yet been notified for the commission. So if somebody could just let us know what the website is that will be used to post meeting notices going forward, then we will update our records. The notice needs to include the date and time of the meeting. That's fairly straightforward. It needs to include the place of the meeting. And if the meeting is being held remotely, then that means clear information for how the public can access the meeting. Then the meeting notice also needs to include a list of topics that are reasonably anticipated for discussion. And the topics need to be listed on the meeting notice with enough detail that a member of the public could look at the list of topics and have a pretty good understanding of what is likely to be discussed. So general headings like old business or new business or update are not sufficient. There should be more detail so somebody can look at the notice and really have a sense of what is going to be discussed. And then finally, every meeting notice needs to include either on the notice or on the website near it, the date and time the notice was posted. That way we can verify it was posted 48 hours in advance. Next slide. So I mentioned at the beginning that we have a wealth of training resources and informational guides on our website. So I encourage everybody, if anybody has any questions about the open meeting law or its requirements, to check out our website. We have the statute and regulations. We have a comprehensive open meeting law guide. We frequently update guidance. For example, our guidance on remote meetings has changed over time. We have frequently asked questions, checklists, and then all of our office's prior open meeting law determinations, which are essentially the opinion letters that we write when we receive open meeting law complaints. Those are all available on our website in a searchable format. Next slide. And then I'm leaving you with contact information for the Division of Open Government. We do have an open meeting law hotline, which is staffed by a rotating attorney of the day, and we can be reached by phone and email. We generally can respond to questions about the requirements of the open meeting law within 2 business days. So it's not really for urgent matters, but for general information about the requirements of the law, about posting notice, about how much detail needs to be included, things like that. We are available and are happy to provide guidance. Are there any questions about the open meeting law? All right, well, then I'll just say that I do encourage anybody, but especially those who might not have prior familiarity with the open meeting law, to consider taking our more comprehensive training and to feel free to reach out to us with questions going forward.
Thank you very much, Carrie, for your presentation and for your time this morning. So to the commissioners, this has been the necessary and important work we needed to establish our commission so that we can work together going forward. I will reassure you that in all of our preparation for this meeting, we have met the open meeting laws. And in fact, we have a staff person assigned to take minutes today. We're now going to move to a part of our time together. We're working very hard to keep to the time frame of 10 to 11:30. I wanted to share with you the rest of the agenda, which will include a very special guest for us, a brief review of the charge to the commission, which will be the end of my official reading of the script. And then I just wanted to give you a little bit of think time, because we are going to ask each of the commissioners to introduce themselves so that we have a sense that we're a team, we know who we are, and we're working together. We're disseminating a document that has each of your names and any affiliation you have and your appointing authority to the commission. So you don't need to repeat that, but certainly your name and perhaps some message about how you come to this commission and the work that we have to do. We will do that after our special guest speaks and after we talk about the charge. So at this time, I want to tell you very much, we have a very special guest who is Representative Josh Cutler, who is now the chair of the Joint Committee on Labor and Workforce Development. He certainly is a well-respected colleague in the House of Representatives, and he led the Workability Subcommittee in the House last session and examined with great energy and vigor the intersection of disability policy, employment, and workforce development in the Commonwealth. His work with this Workability Subcommittee created this commission and was a key recommendation of the report of the subcommittee, brought this to the floor. You may know that our statute is embedded in the Law Enforcement Reform Bill, not because we need to focus on law enforcement reform and people with disabilities, though we may want to talk about that, but because it was a vehicle that was moving and we had a champion who knew how to get this language there and do this very, very important work. So it is my pleasure, it is my honor to introduce to you Josh Cutler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the very kind words. It's great to see so many friends and familiar faces here. You heard some really important stuff, and I'm going to be very much briefer than those presentations. So I'll just rest assured. I just wanted to come aboard and just thank all of you for serving as commissioners and wish you well on this new exciting endeavor. As the chair mentioned, this was an initiative that grew out of our workability efforts last term, and many of you were involved in that. I know you're very helpful and supportive, and I'm grateful to that. And so pleased to see this concrete new commission come out of that. So I just wanted to come on and wish you well. I'm excited to see some of my legislative colleagues, Representative Kay Khan, Representative Matt Muratori, Representative Jerry Cassidy, my senator Patrick O'Connor, and especially and so delighted that Chairwoman Garlick is stepped forward to lead the commission, and she is such a well-respected member of the legislature and the House, and we're very fortunate that she's in this role. So I'm delighted that it's just all worked out perfectly. Things don't always go according to plan, but this went as well as it could. So I'm delighted to be here. Just wanted to say hi and wish you all well. As in my current perch as chair of the House Committee on Labor and Workforce Development, obviously we're going to continue to look at issues of disability employment. We saw a nice victory in the budget that came out of the House, actually, that created a new disability hiring tax incentive, which will be an important step to continue that work. But I just wanted to come on and wish you all well. Thank you all for the hard work and offer my service however I can be available, and just to say that you're in wonderful hands with my colleagues and with Chairwoman Garlick. So thank you, and I'll let you continue on with your important business. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Representative Cutler, Chair Cutler. And I do anticipate that there will be a great deal of work between the Commission for Persons with Disabilities and the Labor and Workforce Committee. So we have a great partner, it seems. And I would humbly say to you that the role I've played today is to convene this meeting, and together we'll decide who will lead the commission in a few moments. But having said that, if you would allow me to read one more time to you, I just think it is so imperative that as we've talked about responsibility and accountability through the various parts of the beginning of the meeting, that we also take a moment to reflect on what is a very broad charge to this commission. And the charge in the enabling statute says that we shall work to advance the cause of all persons with disabilities in the Commonwealth. And to do so, this commission is empowered to study, review, advise, and report on a number of issues, including disparities, the effect of public assistance, school to work activities, the Commonwealth as a model employer, enhance enforcement of state diversity promotion, and applications for disability services. And we are also charged with facilitating and promoting public awareness to encourage persons with disabilities as employees and vendors to assess the programs and practices in all state agencies as they affect persons with disabilities, to advise the executive and legislative bodies regarding the impact of proposed legislation, and to promote and facilitate collaboration among local disability commissions disability rights advocacy organizations, and disability employment service providers. And among our responsibilities, we must submit an annual report by October 31st. We have a proposed calendar of meetings. I anticipate that the commission will submit a report. We know that it will be preliminary, but we are demonstrating that we are committed and moving forward with our work. And we have the power to hire staff and set up an office, make legislative recommendations, accept donations, enact bylaws, establish subcommittees or regional chapters, and hold regular public meetings and fact-finding hearings. And in fact, that funding has been secured. With that, we see how very broad our charge can be. We are a permanent commission, and at this time, to have individuals introduce themselves, we have allotted 20 minutes for this. We're then going to go on to the vote for the chair and vice chair of the commission, and then would like to share some information about the budget and proposed meeting schedule. That means if we stay really tight, if you could keep your presentation to a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I know that's very hard to do, but we're just trying to put a face with a name. So that's all you're trying to accomplish today, is to let your fellow commissioners see your face, your name, and how you come to this commission. And with that, I turn this over to Colin, who will do it again through the roll call in alphabetical order.
Thank you. So starting again with the top of the list, we'll start with Yasi Burks Abbott.
Hi, my name is Jossie Burks Abbott. I guess you already know, it's already on the list that I'm a member of the Massachusetts Developmental Disabilities Council. I'm also on the autism spectrum. I'm 48 years old. I'm also an advisor to the Advocates for Autism of Massachusetts, and I wear a number of different hats. I also actually testified before the Workability Subcommittee, which was good. I guess I won't take up too much of your time, but that's me. That's me.
So Jossie, if I can just interject, you were perfect. That's exactly the information we want to hear, and you have timed it excellently.
Thank you.
All right, so next we'll go to Charles Carr.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlie Carr. I'm the legislative liaison for the Disability Policy Consortium, and I bring to this commission 45 years of disability rights and social justice work.
Thank you. Moving on to Representative Gerard Cassidy.
Hi, everyone. Jerry Cassidy, State Representative from the City of Champions, Brockton, Mass. Thank you very much, Chairwoman Denise Garlick. I got elected in 2016, but I've been in the building since 1987. I worked with Senator Tom Kennedy. He was then state representative. And one of the first people I met was Paul Spooner. So it's very, very great to be on this commission. Paul is a wonderful friend, and I'm looking forward to moving forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to Representative Denise Garlick.
Good morning, everyone. My name, as you know, is Denise Garlick. I am a representative. I've served in the legislature for about 10 years. I've served on our major healthcare committees and been the chair of the Joint Committee on Mental Health, Substance Use, and Recovery. I've also served as the vice chair of Ways and Means, and presently I am the chair of Bills in Third Reading. Most importantly, I bring my heart and my work to this commission. I'm the mother of an individual, a young adult now with developmental disabilities, a extraordinary young woman who was born with microcephaly. And in my work as a registered nurse, which I did all those years before, serving as a representative, at one point I was the healthcare supervisor in a day have program for 86 individuals with moderate to severe disabilities who were medically fragile.
Thank you. We'll move to Nancy Gar-Colsey.
Good morning, I'm Nancy Gar-Colsey from Worcester. I'm a woman with a mobility disability and currently working on advocacy work for public transportation for people with disabilities and the general public in Worcester.
Thank you. We'll move on to Representative Kay Khan.
Thank you very much. I'm Representative Kay Khan, and first of all, I wanted to thank Representative Denise Garlick for putting this whole program together today. The commission, all the needs that we need to do to get started with the commission. So thank you very much. So I've actually served as a state representative since 1995. So I've been in the building a very long time, and I've had the honor and the privilege of serving as the House Chair of the Committee on Children, Families, and Persons with Disabilities for 12 years. And one of the agencies that we would oversee was the Department of Developmental Disabilities during that time. I'm also a registered nurse. I'm a psychiatric nurse, clinical specialist. I have a master's degree in psychiatric mental health nursing. And I'm just delighted to have this opportunity to bring my skills as not only the chair of the committee, but also as having practiced in the field of psychiatry for many, many years. I also want to thank Josh Cutler, who I was honored to have as the vice chair of my committee the last session, and also just amazed and I really want to thank him for his work and coming up with this idea of the workability subcommittee, which he has really taken at amazing speed forward to and help to become where we are today. So I just want to definitely give you a shout out, Josh, and for all the work that you've been doing. I look forward to serving on the committee and feel that the issues around disability is very, very important. I think one of the most important things we can do as commissioners to really take a look at the needs of this community throughout the state of Massachusetts and beyond. So thank you again for all of you who've joined us today, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. We'll move on to Andrew Leveralt.
Morning, everyone. Andrew Leveralt. I'm one of the Deputy General Counsels at the Disabled Persons Protection Commission. The DPPC, as I'm sure many of you are aware, is a state agency that's charged with investigating and remediating allegations of abuse with disabilities. So we look forward to bringing our agency's expertise in that area to the Commission's mission. Look forward to working with you all.
Thank you. We'll move on to Ann Lynch.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ann Lynch. I'm an Assistant Attorney General at the AG's office. I've been there since 2011. I work in both consumer protection and the Civil Rights Division. As the bulk of my work in the Civil Rights Division is actually fair housing enforcement. And I've handled many, many cases involving discrimination against persons with disabilities and reasonable accommodations and modifications.
Thank you. So we'll see if Felix Martinez has joined. Felix? Okay. Moving on, we'll go next to Oswald Mandehar.
Well, good morning, all. It's so good to be with you, and thank you very much for these arrangements. I'm Oz Mandehar, and I'm a senior administrator at the Mass General Brigham organization, mostly with the Spalding rehabilitation side. And I've been around this work for many years, mostly on the employment side, from the business perspective, hiring talented individuals with abilities that also identify as having a disability. I have a visible difference. I have a limb difference. So I know the challenges that are before employers and individuals trying to have gainful employment. And that's what I bring to the table, amongst other things like health equity and community service and so on. So I'm just thrilled the commission is in place. I will contribute from the business side in many ways and hope to continue to open doors to employment for the communities that we serve. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. We'll move on next to Representative Matthew Muratori.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great honor to be here. I'm Matt Muratori, State Representative for the 1st Plymouth District. I'm in the 4th term as a state representative, and I agree with Representative Khan that I think this is probably one of the most important work we're going to be doing, at least in my career as a state legislature. I think I actually was on the commission with Representative Khan and Representative Cutler as well on the committee before this, and I'm so pleased that we've moved quickly into this commission that we're doing. my quick background is I am a licensed nursing home administrator and have been since 1991. But I spent a good 15 years at a place in Plymouth that also had a pediatric component to it, and an over 22 program. So I actually ran the over 22 program for 12 years, and the pediatric unit and a Chapter 766 school as well. So I'm very familiar with the population, and so excited to be on this commission and working with all of you.
Thank you. And I believe Bridget Murphy has joined us.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Bridget Simmons Murphy, and I am proud to be the designee for our Secretary of the Commonwealth, William Francis Galvin. For the last 16 years, I've worked on the accessible side of voting, ensuring that all of our polling locations in Massachusetts are fully accessible for all voters, ensuring that we have accessible marking devices at every polling location, and also ensuring that the process is fully accessible. And we really look forward to being a part of this and to make some tremendous positive change. So thank you very much for letting me be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on next to Senator Patrick O'Connor.
Good morning, everybody. Real honor to be on this commission. Thank you to Chair Garlick for your leadership on this, and obviously to State Rep Josh Cutler. I represent the South Shore, Weymouth down to Duxbury, and issues surrounding and supporting individuals with developmental disabilities has been one of the things that I've really focused on since I got into office about 5 years ago. My chief of staff, his mother actually works at Road to Responsibility. I know Chris is on the commission as well. And my district director has an adult disabled daughter who's 25 years old. And myself, I have a cousin with Down syndrome. So this is something that I think a lot of us have a personal connection with. And I just can't wait to work with such an amazing group of individuals to try and really push forward policies that are going to help and support individuals with disabilities. So I'm really looking forward to the work ahead.
Thank you. We'll move on next to Angela Ortiz.
Hi, fellow commissioners. Angela Ortiz. I come to this table first and foremost as the mother of 8-year-old twins. One has complex medical needs. She's one of the state's most medically fragile. And it really thrusted me into the advocacy world out of desperation and difficulties with the system. I founded the Massachusetts Pediatric Home Nursing Campaign to address the shortage of continuous skilled nursing that is desperately needed in home care for these children and families. So that's been a real passion of mine, and giving families the voice at the table. And I've also just really been involved with the Massachusetts Developmental Disability Council, first as a council member, appointed as the public policy chair, and now I'm hired as a staff member as a policy analyst. So I've certainly been bit by the policy bug. There is nobody more passionate than I for this community, and I'm just looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on next to Kathy Petkauskas.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathy Petkauskas, and I'm the Director of Work Without Limits at UMass Medical School. We are a network of employers and businesses and state agencies and community-based organizations that provide employment services to people with disabilities, colleges and universities, and individuals with disabilities and their family members. Our goal is equal employment for people with disabilities, and we provide training, education, and networking opportunities for all stakeholders, as well as benefits counseling services to individuals and families around how working and earning wages will affect eligibility for public benefits. I've spent my whole career in vocational evaluation and job placement for people with disabilities and working with the business community in that regard. And I am also the mother of an adult child who is legally blind. And I'm very happy to be here among all of you, and had great opportunity to partner with the Workability Subcommittee and Representative Cutler in engaging with members of, leading members of the business community who really are leading the charge around being disability inclusive in our state. So nice to be here, and thank you everyone for being here as well.
Thank you. We'll move on next to Nancy Rimble-Trzynski.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here and happy to see many friends and colleagues that I've worked with for many years. I live in North Adams, Massachusetts. I am the current chair of the Massachusetts Statewide Independent Living Council. I am employed as the assistant program manager for AdLib Center for Independent Living. I'm a person with a visual impairment, and my career has spanned working with all types of disabilities for many, many years. I've been employed in the independent living movement for 21 years, and I'm honored and happy to be here.
Thank you. We'll move on next to Dan Shannon.
Thank you. Hi all, Dan Shannon. I am the director of the State Developmental Disabilities Council. As I'm sure many of you know, the council is an independent agency, and we work with people with disabilities, family members, and policymakers to enhance opportunities for independence and community living for people with disabilities through improving the supports that we provide to them. That's probably the simplest way to describe the council. A bit from my background, I am a sibling of a woman with a disability. Prior to working at the council, I spent about 15 years in nonprofit human services. In fact, I like to say that my first real job was as a direct support professional working an overnight shift in a group home. So many decades ago. The other interesting thing maybe, I serve as president of the South Shore Community Action Council Board out of Plymouth, what I call my other life. And I guess I will simply say what excites me about this commission is anytime we have an opportunity to get a cross-disability group of people together to talk about how we do what we do for individuals with disabilities is a good thing. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on next to Paul Spooner.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Paul Spooner, and my current job is as the director of the Metro West Center for Independent Living in Framingham. I'm 66 years old. I use a power wheelchair for mobility. I've been very active in disability rights and independent living since the late 70s. I've served both on national organizations, and for the last 20 years, I've been roaming the halls of the State House, bothering all the legislators to promote disability rights. So some of you on this commission know me, and others who don't know me will certainly get to know me. I've never been known to be quiet, and I think that's a good quality to have. I've been an advocate for almost as long as one of my fellow IL people, Charlie Carr. So I'm honored to be here on this commission.
Thank you. We'll move next to Carrie Thompson.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie Thompson. I'd like to start with a video description. I'm a white woman with long brown hair, wearing a black top, and behind me is a gray clock. I'm the executive director for Silent Rhythm, which is a nonprofit to promote the inclusion of persons with disabilities in the art, while using the art to promote our inclusion in society. And I'm also a senior officer for Disability Rights Fund, which is about promoting human rights for persons with disabilities globally through the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I'm also the co-chair for the Statewide Advisory Council for the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you. And I just wanted to show you what my sign name is in sign language. It's the letter K on the side of my lips. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move next to Christopher White.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris White. It's only Christopher if I'm in trouble, so please call me Chris. And I'm here through appointment through the Association of Developmental Disabilities Providers, where I'm the immediate past chair of their board. I'm currently the president and CEO of a company called Road to Responsibility. We're a large to medium-sized nonprofit serving adults with developmental disabilities and significant medical and behavioral challenges throughout the South Shore and southeastern Massachusetts. We provide them with homes, jobs, and therapeutic day supports. I've been working in the field now for 41 years and have been advocating for persons with disabilities for just as long. I'm a licensed psychologist by training and have done a number of different things in my career, including full-time clinical work for a while. And I had served as on the faculty at Northeastern's graduate program in psychology for 20 years before stepping into my current role. I'm thrilled to be here. I have long championed the critical importance of having meaningful employment for adults with disabilities for as long as I can remember, and I'm thrilled to be part of this group. Thanks.
Thank you. And finally, we'll go to Liz Zelnick.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Liz Zelnick. I'm the Deputy Policy and Legislative Director for the Treasurer. I'm also her designee, and in my role at Treasury, I work to increase inclusion and equity for persons with disabilities across Treasury, including our pension fund, so looking at ways for proxy voting guidelines expansion, and our internal hiring practices through our HR department, and all of our contracts and various externally facing work as well. So I'm really excited to be a part of this imperative work, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. Thanks.
So to each and every one of you, this feels good already, to feel like a team, to see each other's faces, and to hear the amount of experience and expertise that each one of you brings to the commission. And certainly we know by coming through all of the beginning part of this presentation, you're already committed for today. At this time, and given that we're still learning to know each other and we're still thinking about the work, we would like to vote for both the chair and the vice chair of the commission. The statute calls for a chair and a vice chair, a clerk and a treasurer. It is my suggestion, unless we hear differently, that we establish the chair and vice chair today and then use them as a nominating committee to be in touch with other commissioners around the responsibilities of being the clerk and being the treasurer. Are we, if anyone would like to see a different procedure than just the chair or vice chair today only, if they could, please speak now. Okay, so my suggestion, and I want to introduce to you again, Senator O'Connor, my suggestion is that we accept nominations for the chair. That nomination would need to be seconded. If we have more than one candidate, I think each candidate should make a 2-minute speech. We should then go on to the vote, which would again be a roll call by Colin Feeder, and then move on to the vice chair. A very dedicated, committed member of the commission who is sure that he will give his very best energy to all of this, but would not, is not anticipating being the chair, is Senator Patrick O'Connor, and he has agreed to chair this part of the meeting for us. Senator.
Thank you, Representative. At this point in time, I'd open it up for nominations for chairman.
I'd like to nominate Representative Garlick. This is Chris White.
I second that.
The nomination has been made and seconded. Is there any other nominations? Seeing none, I would close the nominations. So make a motion to close the nominations for chairperson.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. With no other further nominations, I'd like to congratulate and turn it back over to chairperson Denise Garlick.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'd like to open up the nominations for vice chair. If I may be so bold, I would like to nominate Chris White to be the vice chair of the commission.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations?
I'd like to nominate Paul Spooner.
Thank you, Charles. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Daniel. Are there any further nominations?
Can I decline?
Paul, is that you?
Yes, but I decline.
Of course, you can decline.
I appreciate the nomination, but I would say at this moment, I'd like to decline.
So
I have a question.
Certainly, Jesse.
Do you want the chair and the vice chair to both be representatives, or you want a representative and a non-representative, or does it matter?
So I will tell you my understanding of the history of the statute. The history of the statute, of course, is that it came through the House of Representatives with the support of the state Senate. And the genesis, through my understanding with Representative Cutler, is to have a very strong legislative focus. And that's why you see as many legislators on the commission. And while I appreciate that very much, I think for us to have a feeling of unity on the commission, for us to feel even at the chair and vice chair level that many voices are being heard, I think that it is very good to have an individual who is not a legislator. I'm hoping that cements that feeling of team for the commission.
Chairwoman, I just want to comment. I first of all, I have deep respect for Chris White. I've known him for many years. I think my reason for nominating Paul, one is that he's qualified, but secondly, given the charge of our commission being that of people with disabilities, I strongly believe that leadership should at least be one person who has a disability. So that was my reasoning behind nominating Paul, primarily because he's qualified, but also because he's a leader with a disability.
Right, and Charles, I hear that very clearly, and the rationale for that very clearly. Paul has declined, but he absolutely positively deserved the honor of being nominated. And there is no doubt in my mind, I've had an opportunity to work with Paul and actually talk to Paul prior to this commission hearing. There is no doubt in my mind that he is a leader on this commission. Representative Khan?
Oh, you're muted.
So are we still taking nominations?
Yes, we are.
Okay. I'd like to nominate Oz Mondahar.
Second.
Okay. So Oz, first, I'd like to know if that's a nomination you would like to.
Well, what an honor. Thank you, Representative Khan. I'll certainly consider it, and I'm thrilled to be called upon.
Are there any further, well, first, I need a second on that nomination. I believe we had it from Charles.
Second, I'll second.
Okay. And are there any further nominations? Okay, may I ask Chris White and Oz to both make a 2-minute presentation about being the vice chair of the commission and what that would mean to you and what you can bring to that. And then we will move on to a roll call vote.
Who would you like to start?
Why don't we do it alphabetically? Oz, may I can ask you to do that.
Sure, absolutely. So a couple of things, and I'm not familiar with Chris. So Chris, great to be with you in this conversation. So what I bring to the conversation to the commission is really about employment. and breaking those barriers to substantial employment opportunities. Working with organizations for many years, whether it's retail, healthcare, manufacturing, and being part of several other commissions throughout Massachusetts and also at the federal level, has given me a perspective that's been very helpful in bridging that gap. That's really my strength. Identify as someone with a disability, and I've been one of those that have made it to executive leadership. I'm not necessarily a policy person, but I certainly know enough about human resources and what the process are and the procedures to get folks employed. We'll say that I would like to be more of an advisor on the business side. I don't necessarily need to be the vice chair. Like Paul, I will contribute 100%. So I just want to make that statement as well.
Okay. Thank you, Oz, and it's nice to also be on a commission with you. I look forward to getting to know you better. As I stated in my introduction, I've been working in this field for the past 41 years. I'm very passionate about it, and I tell folks all the time, I had the privilege of going to some fancy colleges and universities, but I've learned more from the people with disabilities whom I've served over the past 41 years than I have from any of those institutions where I was formally educated. I bring to this immense passion, a depth of experience that covers the gamut of the human service sector. I've worked with children and adults with mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities for many years. I was early in my career a researcher. As I said, I've held academic appointments in the past. I serve on a number of national and statewide committees, one of which is the Guardianship Committee for MDDC, where we're committed to trying to make sure that the court system is using the least intrusive alternate and using all applicable alternatives to full guardianship for persons with disabilities, because I've seen people's rights, frankly, get abused from guardians who weren't involved or committed and whose growth was hampered by unnecessarily restrictive guardianships. I also serve on the boards of directors of both the Providers Council of Human Services as well as ADDP. And so all I can promise you is I will give you all the effort and benefits of my experience that I have.
Chair, you're muted.
At this time, I will turn this to Colin Fido to do a roll call. Please express the person for whom you are voting. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. So we'll start with Jossie Burks Abbott.
Chris White.
Charles Carr.
Oz Mandahar.
Representative Cassidy.
Chris White.
Representative Garlick.
I'm going to vote present. Thank you.
Nancy Garcolzi.
Chris White.
Representative Khan.
Muted.
Oz Mandahar.
Andrew Lebrault.
Oz Mandahar.
Ann Lynch.
Chris White.
Oz Mandahar.
White.
Sorry, I cut out there.
Oh, sorry, Chris White.
Thank you. Representative Muratori.
Chris White.
Thank you. Bridget Murphy.
Chris White.
Senator O'Connor.
Chris White.
Angela Ortiz,
Chris White.
Kathy Petkauskas,
Mandahar,
Nancy Rumbold-Trzynski,
Osmandahar,
Dan Shannon,
Osmandahar,
Paul Spooner,
Osmandahar,
Carrie Thompson,
Osmandahar,
Christopher White,
Myself.
Chris, and Liz Zelnick.
Chris White.
Thank you. I will now count these up. So we have 11 votes for Chris White and 8 votes for Osmandahar.
Thank you very much. So Chris White will be the vice chair of the committee. I want you to know of the commission. I want you to know as the chair of the commission, I'm very sensitive to the discussion introduced by Charlie Carr. We will continue to work together as a team. I have never personally met Oz. I so much look forward to working with you. And I was bold enough to nominate Chris because I have worked with him in the past, particularly on a myriad of issues related to people with disabilities. And I want to assure all of you who are also trying to meet Chris White for the first time, what I am so deeply impressed is the heart that he brings to his overwhelming work, all the work that we're engaged in. I hope we feel at the end of this vote, we are a team, we are moving forward, and I think we strengthen all of our relationships going forward.
If I may, you have my full support. I'm thrilled that Chris is the number 2, and I will be there 150%. So congratulations, Chris. And thank you for all the votes that I received.
How wonderful.
Thank you, Oz and Chair Garlick.
Absolutely. I want very much to end our meeting on time. Your time is very valuable. We will conduct all of our meetings. We will begin when we say we're going to begin. We're going to end when we say we're going to end, and we're going to do good work in the meantime. I will share with you, as I have indicated, that we do have a budget. That budget is secure. It's $150,000 for our commission to utilize those funds. And we also would like to propose a meeting schedule. As I talked, we will send you out an email with a meeting scheduled in September, a meeting scheduled in October, and perhaps a meeting at the very end of October before we file the first report. We will get that email to you. Anything that you should need, please contact me and Colin Fedor with any questions you have, information. And I would like to say that between Chris and I, we will reach out to every commission member before our next meeting. And I would like to give you just a bit of homework. I'm thinking, how do we get to know each other and understand our focus on what is a huge community of individuals with disabilities, with a myriad of disabilities, and the way we want to address them, which is separate, which is one of our missions, I think, is to people understand how big this universe is and how diverse the needs are. And we don't have just a problem and a solution, but we're going to look for many, many solutions. And so I would like to begin the next meeting with a very brief presentation by each of you. And I thought the commonality we have is COVID. If you could do a 2 to 3 minute presentation on lessons learned during COVID, right? For the individuals for whom you are working with, the individuals, and for your own issues. And the idea on that is we saw that COVID illuminated some of our strengths and exacerbated many of the things that need to be strengthened. So with that, I look forward to your communication. I thank you for this very first meeting. I thank you for the energy that everyone has brought, and I look forward to communicating with all of you.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
folks.
Bye.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Thank
Have a nice
you.
day.
Thank you.
Bye.